Hi everybody. Over the next few months I am planning on making a series of videos of my build of the Trumpeter 1 to 200 scale model of the Titanic. I'm choosing to complicate the kit somewhat more than it already is because I want to make it a radio control boat. Now this is going to add a lot more jobs and challenges than the kit would normally present. I'm going to have to do things like find enough room and weight distribution of batteries. I'm going to have to add prop shafts, fit the RC kit in there somehow, and on top of that I would really like to extend the lighting set to light up the hull, and also possibly add in some smoke generation systems as well. Now, one of the things that I foresee being a real problem is that this kit is not designed to be radio control. There is a huge amount of really fine detail on this kit, really small things, railings, benches, all made of photo etch parts, which are really fragile. And I think one of the things I'm going to have to come to peace with is that really this model is designed to sit behind a glass case. It's not designed to get chucked in the boot of a car and taken to a model boating lake every weekend. So I'm going to have to take into account in the design that the boat needs to be more portable than it would be normally. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to myself 3 weeks ago when I first started building. First thing I'm going to do is look over all of the instructions in quite fine detail. Now, I know that's pretty obvious, in most kits, that's what you're going to do, but it becomes particularly important with this set because there's just so many different instructions. The actual kit itself comes with just basic assembly guide, blue X to Y. But on top of that, you also get an LED assembly guide. And this talks you through how you fit the LED lighting into the superstructure, that kind of stuff. Add to that you also have your painting guide, which of course, it's much easier to paint certain things before you glue them onto the model and so on. So that's also worth considering as an instruction. The other thing that you get in the detail upgrade pack is a fourth set of instructions, with information on what you need to do to prepare the model to accept new parts, what you need to do for things like the mast and so on. So overall, there's 4 sets of instructions there. And then when you add on top of the fact that I'm going to have to make some modifications of my own to make this compatible with radio control equipment, there's a hell of a lot of stuff you need to make sure happens in the right order. So you join me about 2.5, 3 hours later, and I've spent that time going through all of these different instructions and making notes on what I actually need to do at what points to make sure I don't make any mistakes. I've written quite a lot of stuff down, and I'm certainly not going to go through all of it because frankly it's going to be pretty dull. But really the things I need to do actually start before I even start anything to do with the kit. So before I glue anything, there's quite a lot of stuff I'm going to have to do with the hull section. The first thing is access. Because this is going to be a radio control model boat, I am going to have to be able to get into the hull to change out batteries, to lubricate propeller shafts, that kind of thing, and also to make sure that if anything does go wrong, I'm able to access it quickly. So I'm going to have to think quite carefully about how I can repeatably get access into the hull without damaging any of the actual model itself. And that's going to be a bit of a challenge. Of course, I'm going to have to drill the propeller shafts. I'm going to have to drill out all of the portholes that I want to have light coming through. Once I've done that, I'm going to have to paint the hull. And then I'm also going to have to seal up those portholes. My intention is to seal them with some kind of clear resin, and I'll come back to that later on in this episode. The other thing I'm going to have to do is I'm mildly concerned about the rudder. I think a plastic rudder will be fine and strong enough for the job, but the stuff that worries me are the brackets that hold it in place, these little bits of plastic here. I'm a bit worried that over time and continued use, they may well start to wear quite badly. And so I'm going to want to do some strengthening on those to make sure that it lasts for a long time. I want this model to last a good few years. So I'm going to have to do some strengthening on them, and I'll come back to that in a later episode, I think. The other 2 things I've noted down are to strengthen the hull. This comes back to what I was saying before, but this model is not really designed for the job I'm going to put it to. It's not really designed to be lifted up and put down places, so I'm going to have to do a fair amount of work to make sure that the hull itself is going to be strong and it's not going to flex when it's loaded in different ways. The last thing, a little bit of irony with it being the Titanic, but I also think it might be worth putting in some watertight compartments. This is because I'm going to be drilling out a good 200-300 holes along the boat to make the portholes, and obviously whilst I don't intend that they're going to leak, I think it'd be foolish to imagine that they might not. So I think it would be wise to put in some sort of watertight system just to make sure that if for any reason the boat does leak, you know, it could be through a propeller shaft or a porthole, whatever, I've got some insurance against the leak spreading across the entire boat. The other thing I'm going to have to look at is funnel extract. Because I want to add smoke generating systems into this model, I'm going to have some way of getting the smoke from the generators, which are going to be based right at the bottom of the hull for a weight distribution. And I'm going to have to get that smoke up through the superstructure and then out of the funnels, numbers 1, 2 and 3. So at some point I'm going to have to cut through these decks in places which is not going to be visible and run some kind of tubing up to funnel the smoke out and up through the funnels. Now that's all of the modifications I want to talk about for the time being. I'm now going to crack on with some of the points I made on the first page, and we're going to look at how to drill the portholes first. So the first thing I'm going to do with these portholes is I want to mark up on the hull which ones need to get drilled out. It's important to remember that Titanic was not full on her maiden voyage. She actually only had about 2/3 of the full capacity. And it's been quite tricky to work out exactly which portholes I should be going to drill out or not. The only sort of source I can find to give me any kind of clue here is this picture taken at Cherbourg. So this would have been taken on Wednesday the 10th of April 1912. And as far as I'm aware, it's the only known photo of the ship at night. However, it's going to be quite a useful little source. As you can see, all of the dining room lights on D-deck are illuminated, and quite a lot of the lights towards the fore and the aft. Not so much of E-decks on, only really the central sections. Then F-deck has quite a lot of stuff, and even G-deck, you can just see at the bottom, there's about 5 lights on a G-deck, and I think those are probably cabins for the boiler room, the stokers and such. So I'm going to use this as a sort of guide to mark out my my drilling holes. I'm just going to mark up with just a simple sort of dry white pen. Right, so here we are. I've marked up all the different portholes that I want to drill out. Quite a lot of them are going to get drilled, but especially in the forward and aft sections of the lower decks, quite a few are going to be left unlit. I've also left a couple of empty spots in a few places just because that's what the image from the Titanic at Cherbourg shows. Most of the middle portholes in the centre of the ship are lit. So this is all first class dining saloon. That would all have been lit during the evening. Let's move along to the back. The only slightly strange thing about this model is that these holes here on the aft well deck are not cut out. And they are cut out on the forward well deck, so I'm not entirely sure why Trumpeter chose to do that, but it's not really a big issue, it just adds another little job. So I'm now going to start drilling the portholes. And to do this, I've bought this hand drill off eBay. It only cost about £6, and it came with about 30 different drill bits, ranging from well under 1mm all the way up to 3.4mm. And I thought for £6 it was probably worth a try. I've been a bit nervous about using anything with any kind of mechanical assistance on this, you know, whether it's an electric drill or even something like a Dremel. I was even worried about using a hand wound drill, because I just think that any little slip is really going to damage the quite fine surface detail on the hull. So I settled for this instead. So let's see how good it is. Was pretty tedious. Just endless portholes. There are so many on this boat. But the good news is that all of the portholes I wanted to drill out on F and G deck are now done. So we are making some progress. It's just painstakingly slow. Just as a note, whenever I work on the model, I tend to stand it on a couple of bits of material like this, and that's just so any of the fine surface detail that's on the outside of the hull, like these rivet seams here, they're absolutely gorgeous, but they're quite susceptible to damage, so it's worth just making sure that they're not going to get damaged by any sort of scratching and that kind of thing. I'm going to countersink these holes slightly on the inside, not very deep, just a little bit. And the reason for this is because the plastic is actually quite thick. I hadn't really accounted for this, but it's probably about 2.5 mil. And this means that any LED lights that I use are going to have to be almost directly behind the hole in order for the light to shine through. And so by countersinking the hole, I'm just opening out that angle slightly so that if an LED is slightly out of line with the porthole, there's more of a chance that light's still going to shine through. Right, well that is all the holes on the hull now drilled. It took a really long time with this drill, probably the best part of 5 or 6 days, working most evenings on it. But I'm glad I did it this way. I think it's given a result that I don't think I would have got with an electric drill. So I am pleased I did it. I'm sorry, I did mean to show you the drilling of these larger holes, but I managed to forget to hit record on the camera, so I didn't in the end. Sorry about that. It's worth pointing out for those, you do need to centre drill them before you use your full-size drill. I just made a little drill guide out of some plastic, and that worked really well. But you do need to centre drill them, otherwise your drill's going to wander. I think this video is now getting quite long, so this seems an appropriate point to end it, really. If you have enjoyed it, please like and maybe think about subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.